Let us continue in our encounter with some Christian witnesses, rich in apostolic zeal for proclaiming the gospel. Today, I would like to talk to you about a man who made Jesus and his poorest brothers and sisters his life passion. I am referring to St. Charles de Foucauld, who, drawing upon his intense experience of God, made a journey of transformation toward feeling a brother to all. What was the secret of St. Foucauld, of his life? After living his youth being distant from God, without believing in anything other than the disordered pursuit of pleasure, he confides this to a non-believing friend, to whom, after having converted by accepting the grace of God's forgiveness in confession, he reveals the reason of his life. He writes, "I have lost my heart to Jesus of Nazareth." Brother Charles thus reminds us that the first step in evangelizing is to have Jesus inside one's heart. It is to fall head over heels for him. If this does not happen, we can hardly show it with our lives. Instead, we risk talking about ourselves, the group to which we belong, a morality, or, even worse, a set of rules, but not about Jesus, his love, his mercy. I see this in some new movements that are emerging. They talk about their vision of humanity, they talk about their spirituality, and they feel theirs is a new path. But why do you not talk about Jesus? They talk about many things, about organization, about spiritual journeys, but they do not know how to talk about Jesus. I think that today it would be good for each one of us to ask him or herself, do I have Jesus at the center of my heart? Have I lost my head a bit for Jesus? Brother Charles had, to the extent that he went from attraction to Jesus to imitation of Jesus. Advised by his confessor, he went to the Holy Land to visit the places where the Lord lived and to walk where the Master walked. In particular, it is in Nazareth that he realized he must be formed in Christ's teachings. He experienced an intense relationship with the Lord, spent long hours reading the Gospels, and felt like his little brother. And as he got to know Jesus, the desire to make Jesus known arises in him. It always happens like this. When one of us gets to know Jesus better, the desire to make him known, to share this treasure, arises. In his commentary on the account of Our Lady's visit to St. Elizabeth, he makes him say, "I have given myself to the world. Take me to the world." Yes, but how is this done? Like Mary did in the mystery of the Visitation, in silence, by example, and by life. With one's life, because our entire existence, writes Brother Charles, must shout the gospel. Very often, our existence shouts worldly things. It calls out many stupid things, strange things. But he says, no. All our existence must shout the gospel. He then decides to settle in distant regions to cry out the gospel in silence, living in the spirit of Nazareth, in poverty and concealment. He goes to the Sahara Desert, among non-Christians, and he goes there as a friend and a brother, bearing the meekness of Jesus the Eucharist. Charles lets Jesus act silently, convinced that Eucharistic life evangelizes. Indeed, he believes that Christ is the first evangelizer, and so he remains in prayer at Jesus' feet, before the tabernacle, for 12 hours a day, certain that the evangelizing power resides there, and feeling that it is Jesus who brings him close to so many distant brothers. Do we, I ask myself, believe in the power of the Eucharist? Does our going out to others, our service, find its beginning and its fulfillment there, in adoration? I am convinced that we have lost the sense of adoration. We must regain it, starting with us, consecrated people, bishops, priests, religious sisters, and all consecrated persons, spending time before the tabernacle, regaining the sense of adoration. Brother Charles wrote, "Every Christian, then, must become an apostle." And he reminds a friend that close to priests we need lay people who see what the priest does not see, who evangelize with a closeness of charity, with a kindness for all, with an affection always ready to give of itself. Holy lay people, not climbers. And those lay people, that layman, that laywoman, who are in love with Jesus, make the priest understand that he is not an official, that he is a mediator, a priest. How we priests need to have beside us these lay people who truly believe and who show us the way by their witness. Brother Charles, with his experience, foreshadows the times of the Second Vatican Council. He intuits the importance of the laity and understands that the proclamation of the gospel is up to the entire people of God. But how can we increase this participation? The way St. Foucauld did, by kneeling and welcoming the action of the Spirit, who always inspires new ways to engage, meet, listen, and dialogue, always in collaboration and trust, always in communion with the Church and pastors. St. Foucauld, a figure who is a prophet for our time, bore witness to the beauty of communicating the gospel through the apostolate of meekness. Considering himself a universal brother and welcoming everyone, he shows us the evangelizing power of meekness, of tenderness. Let us not forget that God's style is summarized in 3 words: closeness, compassion, and tenderness. God is always near. He is always compassionate, and he is always tender. Christian witness must take this road of closeness, compassion, and tenderness. This is how St. Charles was, meek and tender. He wanted everyone he met to see, through his goodness, the goodness of Jesus. Indeed, he used to say he was a servant to someone much better than I. Living Jesus' goodness led him to forge fraternal bonds of friendship with the poor, with the Tuareg, those furthest from his mentality. Gradually, these bonds generated fraternity, inclusion, appreciation of the other culture. Goodness is simple and asks us to be simple people who are not afraid to offer a smile. With his smile, with his simplicity, Brother Charles bore witness to the gospel. Never by proselytism, never. By witness. One does not evangelize by proselytism, but by witness, by attraction. Lastly, let us ask ourselves whether we carry within us and to others Christian joy, Christian meekness, Christian tenderness, Christian compassion, and Christian closeness. Thank you.